Happy Friday, everyone. Kurt Brawler here with your latest edition of Fitness Fridays. This week is going to be all about stretching. So we're going to go through a number of different movements, either focusing on holding certain positions or moving through different ranges of motion to help relieve tightness, improve our overall mobility and flexibility. So go ahead and find yourself a comfortable place on the floor and let's get started. Alright, starting out here, we are going to work on a butterfly stretch. So we are just going to put our feet together in this seated position, put our hands on our feet, pull those feet as close to our body as we comfortably can, and then we're just going to actively try and put our knees out, down toward the floor, as wide as we comfortably can to create that stretch in the inside of the leg and the outside of the hips. For all these stretches today, we're just going to focus on taking a couple nice deep breaths and holding for about 15 to 20 seconds. Ready, and begin. Thinking about sitting up nice and tall here and just getting my knees as wide as I can. Let's hold another 10 seconds there. And let's go ahead and release. Let both legs come out. Shake them out if you need to, and we're going to move on to our next stretch. So next, we are going to move on to a figure 4 seated stretch here. So we're going to have one leg straight out, put one leg in, reach out with both hands toward that outstretched foot, and hold for again 15 to 20 seconds. Get some nice deep breaths here. And not worrying so much about how far I can reach, just going to a position that I have a nice comfortable stretch and holding right there. Let's hold another 10 seconds on this side. And let's go ahead and release and switch. Same thing on the other side. One leg straight out, one leg in, reaching out with both hands. Couple more deep breaths there. And go ahead and release and come back to that neutral position. So next, we're going to move on to a few upper body stretches in this seated position. When we're getting ourselves set up for this stretch, you can either cross your legs if you're comfortable in that position, or if your flexibility limits you from getting here, you can also just leave your legs straight out in front of you, either straight or a little bit bent, whatever's most comfortable for you. I'm going to go ahead and cross my legs, and then what we're going to do is grab onto our elbow and pull it straight across our body to create that stretch in the back of our shoulder. We want to make sure when we're doing this stretch that we're not pulling our arm up, but that we're pulling horizontally across our body until we feel any sort of pull right here in the back of our shoulder. Let's start on our right side and begin. And once we find that good stretch position, we're just getting a couple nice easy breaths here for about 15 or 20 seconds. Holding for another 10 seconds here. And let's go ahead and release. You can move around that shoulder after holding that position, and let's switch. So other arm, same thing, grabbing onto our elbow and pulling straight across our body until we feel that little stretch in the back of the shoulder. Again, being careful not to pull our arm up toward our face. We want to pull horizontally, find that shoulder stretch, and hold and breathe. Let's hold for another 10 seconds there. And let's go ahead and release, move around that shoulder, and we're going to move on to our next stretch. So next, we're going to move on to an overhead tricep and lat stretch. So what that's going to look like is grabbing our elbow once again in our comfortable seated position. We're just going to bring that arm up over top of our head and pretend like we're trying to pull our hand right down the center of our back, like we're giving ourselves a pat on the back. Let's go ahead and start with our right side and begin. Again, get a couple nice deep breaths in here. Just pulling that arm into a position that's comfortable for a nice moderate stretch. Hold for another 10 seconds here. And let's go ahead and release, move around those arms, and switch sides. Same thing on the other side, grabbing that elbow, bringing it up nice and high, and pulling that hand straight down the center of our back. Nice deep cleansing breaths, holding that position. Little under 10 seconds to go here. And let's go ahead and release, shake everything out, and move on. So next, we're going to move on to a little thoracic rotation. We're going to do this on all fours, so with our hands lined up right underneath of our shoulders and our knees lined up right underneath of our hips, we're going to place one hand on our ear, and we're going to focus on rotating our elbow underneath of our body, and then coming back out and pointing that elbow up toward the ceiling. We're going to focus on moving through this motion for about 5 or 10 repetitions, and then switch sides. Starting on our right side, and begin. Just going as far as I comfortably can, not trying to overdo it here. Nice and slow and controlled. Just getting some good motion through my torso and mid-back. Couple more reps here. Last one, and let's switch. Moving to our left side, going with our left hand on that left ear, and begin. Again, I'm just getting as much motion as my body will allow me to. I'm not trying to overdo it or overstrain myself here. Couple more reps, nice and controlled. And one more time. And relax, very good. So next, we're going to move on to something called a reach through stretch. So starting in that same position we were just in, we're just going to place one hand up a little bit higher than the other, take that other hand and reach underneath of our arm as far as we comfortably can until we feel that little bit of a stretch in our mid-back, maybe in the back of our shoulder. And again, we're going to hold for 15 to 20 seconds. And begin. Getting a couple nice easy breaths here. Another 10 seconds. And let's go ahead and release and switch. Same thing on the other side. Placing one hand a little bit higher than the other, reaching underneath of that arm as far as I comfortably can as I rotate, and let's hold that position. Another 10 seconds here, nice and easy. And let's go ahead and release that stretch. So our next movement, still on all fours with our hands underneath of our shoulders, we're going to work through something called a cat-cow or cat-camel. What we're going to be focusing on here is rounding our back and straightening our back. So as we round our back, our eyes are going to look down toward the floor. As we straighten our back, our eyes are going to look forward. And we're just going to move back and forth through that motion, maybe 5 to 10 times, just getting as much motion as our body will allow us to get. Ready? And begin. Rounding that back, allowing our head to drop and extend, allow the eyes to come forward. Back and forth here, feeling that movement come through our mid-back. A couple more times. Let's do 2 more repetitions here. And last one. Very good. We are going to move on to a sit back stretch. So we're already set up in pretty good position to get into the stretch. All we're going to do is let our feet drop flat, reach both hands forward, and then we're just going to sit our hips back toward our feet as far as we comfortably can, and we're just going to hold and breathe in this position. Ready? And begin. Hold another 10 seconds here. And let's go ahead and release and come back to that neutral position. For our last few stretches here, we're going to transition to laying all the way flat on our back. Starting with our feet flat on the ground, we're going to start with what's called a single knee to chest stretch. So we're just going to be grabbing onto one knee with both hands and pulling that knee straight up toward our waist and chest and holding when we feel a little bit of a stretch anywhere in our hip or maybe the back of the leg. we're just going to breathe and hold here for about 15 to 20 seconds. And if you want to add to this stretch, you can also straighten your opposite leg out to make that stretch just a little bit more intense. Couple more seconds in this position. And let's go ahead and release, come back to our neutral position and switch. Other side, grabbing on with both hands, pulling straight up, finding that good stretch position and hold. Again, if you want to add to this stretch the last 10 seconds here, you can just straighten that opposite leg all the way out. Very good. Let's go ahead and release and come all the way back to our neutral position. So next, we're going to move on to a Piriformis stretch. What that's going to look like is bringing one foot over top of my opposite knee, taking both hands, placing it on that leg that's up, and pulling my knee toward my opposite shoulder. So I like to place one hand on my shin, one hand on the knee, and pull diagonally across my body until I feel that little stretch in the outside of the hip. Find that comfortable position for you, pull that knee toward your opposite shoulder, and let's begin. Another 10 seconds here. And let's go ahead and release and switch. Same thing on the other side. Bring our foot over top of our opposite knee. One hand on the shin, one hand on the outside of the knee. Pull that knee and that entire leg toward your opposite shoulder. Find that little stretch in the outside of the hip, and let's hold that position and breathe. Another 10 seconds here. And let's go ahead and release and come back to our neutral position. So next, we're going to move on to something called lateral trunk rotations. So from this same neutral position with my feet flat on the floor, I'm just going to rock my knees side to side, looking for some good motion in my hips and low back region. And we're just going to move through this for maybe 10 or 15 seconds. Nice and easy, nice and slow and controlled. Being aware of what we feel as we go side to side. Last few repetitions here. And one more each. And relax. Very good. So to finish our stretch today, we're going to come back up to the seated position. This time we're going to straighten both legs right out in front of us. And all we're going to do is reach both hands out toward our feet as far as we comfortably can and hold for the last 15 or 20 seconds here. Ready? Last one, and begin. Getting a couple nice, easy breaths here to finish it out. Again, not worrying so much about how far you can get forward. Just go to that position where you're feeling a little bit of a stretch and you can hold. And let's finish strong here. Last 10 seconds. And let's go ahead and release, and we are all done. Thanks so much for joining myself and Mazy for our little stretch break this week. We hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for another great episode next week. Stay healthy, stay moving, and we'll see you again soon.